So you're doing some 10 pulls on the current banner and you get 5-star Layla. So this is gonna be the first video in a new series. I've been doing the basic guides, which if you wanna know the basics about Layla, do be sure to go check out this video here. We talk about her skill, we talk about her burst, we talk about her play style, things like that. This video is going to be a much more in-depth, specific video for mid to late game. And it is henceforth going to be known as the Artifact Grinding Hell video for each character. So let's recap looking at my Layla first. My Layla is level 90 out of 90 with 45,000 HP, 1200 attack, defense 991, with a little bit of EM 135. Now, I said this in the last video, I'm going to reiterate this in this video. My biggest issue with my Layla is the energy recharge. At 105%, that is way too low. I do need to get that up. So whenever we look at her artifacts and talk about the stats about what can be better, you're gonna hear me say, I wish this was ER, I wish I'd gotten ER here a lot. So now that we've kind of recapped her stats, we're not gonna quite go into artifacts and weapons yet. First, we are gonna show the team that I'm currently running Layla on. I pulled Arlecchino specifically to run with Layla. They are now a pair. They do not get separated. For me, if I have Arlecchino on the field, Layla's shield is protecting her. And the full team is Arlecchino, Layla, Kazuha, and Benny. So sometimes I do swap out either Kazuha or Benny if I need them on a different team. Like if I'm trying to run something in the Abyss or I want to play on a different team, Benny or Kazuha can and will be swapped out for Xingqiu. And then sometimes I'll throw in Jean if I get rid of Kazuha. So we're gonna run through this domain. We're gonna talk about what Layla does in here. We're gonna talk about what this whole team does. So Layla is running a 4-piece tenacity set. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But because of how her shield and because of how her burst works with getting the floating stars, the shooting stars in her shield, each time they fire off and damage an opponent, we will be getting a team-wide attack boost. Arlecchino loves that. And this is where the want for more ER comes in, because if I had more ER, I could keep her burst just permanently up with her shield and just always trigger tenacity. If you have enough ER, you can get a permanent uptime on tenacity's 4-piece with her shield and her burst. Along with Kazuha using his skill and Benny using his skill, we can always keep tenacity's passive up. So I am running Layla because I want Arlecchino to be getting some melts. I want Arlecchino to be protected by the second best shield in the game, which is Layla, and in some instances the best shield in the game. And because of how Arlecchino's healing works, where you have to heal her with her own burst and no other way, having a really good shield is really important. Now, she can get melts off of Layla, especially if I had more ER to keep her burst up to be applying cryo constantly. Arlecchino would be getting a ton of melts. So with how Layla's skill works, needing to take time or other methods to get up her shooting stars before they actually start hitting enemies, we can use Arlecchino's skill to apply pyro, set Layla's shield up, go to Kazuha, and still swirl pyro and not cryo. Then that is also going to increase the number of stars in her skill, which will then start firing off, giving tenacity buff and applying cryo. Then we can go to Benny, we can drop Benny's burst, use Benny's skill, again that's going to produce more shards. We can go to Arlecchino, activate Bond of Life, and start going off. Now if Layla's shield goes down due to the time, we can simply swap back to her and use it and then go straight back to Arlecchino and keep the pyro infusion, which is the key thing that allows us to use Layla very efficiently, because Arlecchino keeps her pyro infusion even whenever you swap her off the field. So always having her shield up is not difficult to do to protect Arlecchino. We still do kind of have to cycle through to get the shooting stars into her skill if we don't have her burst ready, which again, like I said, I need more energy recharge. Then we can keep the tenacity passive up. So if you have enough energy recharge on Layla, if you're able to cycle through your team and using their skills to increase the number of shooting stars that she has, you can have a permanent uptime of tenacity. So now that we've talked about the team that I specifically love to run Layla in with Arlecchino, we are going to look at her artifacts and her weapons. Now, I am running 4-piece tenacity. You have a couple of options to get HP on Layla, which is what her shield scales off of. You do have 2-piece VG, 2-piece tenacity, but 4-piece tenacity has a buffing effect, which is great in a lot of teams that she wants to be in. If you can get over 40,000 HP with tenacity 4-piece, definitely do that. The 2-piece just increases your HP by 20%. The 4-piece, whenever your elemental skill damages an opponent, it is going to increase the team's attack by 20% as well as increasing their shield strength for 3 seconds. The caveat is that 3 seconds, right? That's why we need to produce shooting stars in her shield, so that way we can shoot off the shooting stars to keep this passive up. So we want to be using our team member skills and why we want to be using her burst, because both of them contribute to the number of stars in her shield. So I'm going to mirror myself real quick so that way I can look at my screen while I'm doing this. So now we're going to get into the artifact grinding hell portion where this series is going to get its name. So we're going to talk about the main stats that you want and the substats that I could improve upon. So for her flower, it's always going to give HP, right? We want HP substats, HP percent, flat HP, energy recharge. Those are the 3 substats that we want. Now, obviously, I got HP percent, attack, defense, and crit damage. A lot of my rolls were into HP percent, which were great, but this could be a lot better. Attack or defense, if that would have been energy recharge, that would have been phenomenal. For the plume, we've got EM, attack percent, HP percent, and flat HP. If that attack percent or EM had been energy recharge, this would have been an amazing artifact for Layla. It's still not bad. Got a couple rolls into flat HP, got 1 roll into HP percent, and then I got 1 roll into attack percent. It might be actually 1 roll into all of them. Was still 1 more roll to go. I didn't finish this one because I was trying, or I need to try and get one with energy recharge on it. Now, I do also have this artifact. It is on Kirara right now. This artifact will go to Nilu, I believe, with crit rate, energy recharge, EM, and crit damage. So this right here would get me the energy recharge that I need and want. However, I would lose the HP and I would drop below 45k, and I'm trying to keep her at 45k. Next, we have our Sands with, of course, HP main stat and the substats. Flat HP, which is good. Crit damage, which is okay. Elemental Mastery, which went 1 roll into, and then 26% defense. If this had been ER instead of EM or anything other than that defense, that would have been fantastic. If I could have gotten some rolls into energy recharge and flat HP on this, would have been amazing, right? Okay, so Goblet, HP percent, EM, defense, HP, and then crit rate, that's another 19% defense. If any of these could have been ER other than that flat HP, again, would have been phenomenal. But this is the artifact that I've got. I do need to get some. I will be getting some new artifacts for Layla. I'm about to continue farming artifacts for Nilu whenever she comes out, who is actually my favorite character. I know that my channel's name is in Layla We Trust. That is because my first TikTok video to blow up and get over 20k, 50k, and 100k views was Layla's original guide. That is why the channel is named in Layla We Trust. Layla's still in my top 5. Love Layla. Nilu is my favorite. But Layla will be getting new artifacts as I am farming for Nilu as well. These are actually all of the original artifacts that my Layla had whenever I was running her with Eula, who was my very first 5-star. But we'll get to that later on. Again, on the circlet, HP percent, flat HP, a little bit of energy recharge. I got a roll into crit rate, and I believe some rolls into flat HP. If that would have rolled energy recharge, that would have been great. Like, this is a much better artifact for Layla because we've got HP main stat, flat HP, and ER. But HP main stat, flat HP, energy recharge, and crit rate on the substats is phenomenal. If I had every one of my HP pieces like this, oh, it'd be so good. But unfortunately, we cannot choose our artifacts in Genshin, which is why I'm always a little haphazard to say, like, you need to improve this character, you need to do this, because that's all luck-based, right? We don't get to determine the main stat and substats of our artifacts. It's all about time or money. If you want to spend primos on resin, it's all about that. So, like, if you're really trying to build out a character and you're having difficulty and somebody's like, no, you need to get this up, it's all luck-based, all right? It's luck-based. You can't control it. Don't take it to heart, right? That's my view anyway, that nobody asked for. So let's keep going. Let's go to the weapons. Now, on my Layla, I'm running a level 80 Dot Cane's Assistant, which is what I said I could get this up to 90 and then possibly swap to the other flower, getting her ER up. But this weapon is going to be very good for her. It is one of 2 weapons that has a main stat of HP. The other is Nilu's signature key. You do have Jade, which gets up HP in its description and its passive, But as far as main stats, you only have the Dockhand's Assistant and Nilou's signature weapon. If you do not have Key or Dockhand's Assistant, I can actually swap back to this right now. If you don't have Key or Dockhand's Assistant, then go for an energy recharge weapon, right? You do have Skyward Blade, which is going to be very, very good for her. You do have the Fishing Fontaine weapon. You do have Favonius. You have a lot of different options for an energy recharge weapon. I wouldn't necessarily do Sacrificial, because if her shield is breaking, then you just need more HP, not the ability to use her skill again by resetting the cooldown. So now that we are through the artifacts, now that we are through the weapons, we are going to talk about specific teams that Layla can be good in. You can also take these teams and kind of use them as a base for others. So first off, we're going to start with Gaming, Layla, Rosaria, and Farina. Now, Rosaria, I would probably swap out and put in Charlotte, but I ran this with the Rosaria because I just already had this team kind of ready to go, right? So having Layla and Farina together can actually be really good because Farina's going to vampire everybody, right? But having Layla's shield there is going to be very, very good. Also, it offers you the chance to get Freezen or enemies that are frozen to where they can't move, and if they're frozen, they can't damage you. But because a character like Gaming hurts himself with his skill, then he can really take advantage of Layla's shield, right? So that way we're not going to kill him. He's also going to be low on HP from Farina. So you have a lot of reason to run a character like Layla. You can get Melt, which is going to be really, really good for Gaming. With the double cryo, you have a much higher chance of having your enemies frozen where they cannot move. And he's going to like the tenacity 4-piece thing, right? So this can be a very, very good team for Gaming. So like I said, I would probably take out Rosaria, especially if you don't need the passive from her crit rate, and throw in like Charlotte with like Golden Troop with all attack stats. Then that can be really, really good to go with Gaming because you'll be able to use Farina's burst with Charlotte's team-wide healing and get an even higher damage out of Gaming. Next, we are going to look at a Eula team. Now, Eula carried me. She was my very, very first 5-star, and I used her and Layla together a lot. Now, this right here is the team that I used all the way from Leeway to Sumeru, right? These 4 right here, and I loved this team. However, I can improve upon it now. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take out Fischl, we're going to throw in Raiden, and we're going to take out Coco, and we are going to throw in C6 Mika. Now, this team works especially well if you have Serpent Spine on Eula. Serpent Spine's passive increases the damage the longer they're on the field, and the longer they're on the field without taking damage. So not just running a healer, not just running Mika for cryo resonance, but also running Layla, so that way you can keep her shield up to where Eula can take the field and not take damage, making it a lot more difficult for enemies to stop her whenever she's using her burst, but also to be able to consistently and constantly and reliably have Serpent Spine's passive at full effect. This is where having Layla in this team as another cryo can be very, very good. C6 Mika is just too good not to use with like Eula, right? Now with Raiden being in there, we also have Super Conduct. We have Raiden boosting Eula's burst damage with her skill. So you have a lot of things going for this team. You also do have Mika as kind of a backup healer. You can throw Noblesse on Mika, so that way you may have noticed that my Mika doesn't have artifacts. You could throw Noblesse onto Mika to also increase the damage for Eula as well. This can be a very, very potent team. If you don't have C6 Mika, but you have C6 Rosaria, throw in C6 Rosaria. That's going to be really, really good too. Now, this specific team would not be a nuke Eula. This would be for actually hitting with Eula. Like my crit split on Eula right now is I think 60 something over 200 with cryo resonance. That is going to take it up to like 75 at minimum. It might actually be into the 80s. I think it might have been 66 beforehand. So this makes Eula able to consistently and reliably hit her burst, which is if you don't crit on her burst, you're losing a lot of damage. So this would be with Serpent Spine for the increase in damage, increase in crit rate, plus cryo resonance, and with how much cryo Layla and Eula and Mika are applying, you're going to be able to reliably have that cryo resonance. So this is going to be much more for consistent, reliable damage Eula, not as much of a nuke. Now for the last team that we're going to talk about, it would be with Alhaitham. Now, specifically Alhaitham with Harbinger of Dawn, which is a 3-star sword, which is actually really, really good on him, that gets up your crit damage and your crit rate, which he loves in a spread and aggravate team. Now, I don't have Alhaitham, as you can see from the screen, so we're going to do a mock team where on-field Nahida is going to take our place of our Alhaitham, pretend that they look alike, pretend that they're the same character. Now, if you have Harbinger of Dawn, you have to keep him above 90% health to get the crit rate and the crit damage. So, having a character with a shield is going to be very, very good. Now, I don't have Zhongli. I stupidly chose Child over Zhongli on the last rerun. Now, Dendro and Cryo do not have a reaction, meaning that having Layla in a team like this, again, pretend that Nahida is Alhaitham, means that we can create hyper blooms with on-field Alhaitham, Alhaitham. Using our on-field Alhaitham, we can do a hyper bloom team with Layla in there shielding Alhaitham. I don't even remember what I said anymore. Alhaitham / Nahida. We can use her shield to protect them with Harbinger of Dawn to keep their HP above 90%. And not mess up the reactions. So even with Superconduct, it's not going to matter. You're still going to be able to make blooms, and you can create blooms off of frozen enemies if Hydro and Cryo react. So again, this doesn't mess up anything with creating blooms and hyper blooming them. This is going to be a very, very good team if you wanted to use Alhaitham, Alhaitham, with Harbinger of Dawn. That is where Layla being in this is really, really good. Now that is going to be it for this video. This is the first of many in the series. All characters are now going to be getting 2 videos, the basics guide and the artifact grinding hell guide. This is the first. Layla had to be the first because in Layla we trust. I will see you in the next video.